Something I've always wanted to ask you, and I think it's just semantics, but you say there's no consciousness during deep sleep or during anesthesia. But is it not more mind that's not present and why there's no memory, and that consciousness or awareness is still present? It's just that the body mind isn't aware of it because the mind is stopped.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
how do you,
yeah,
I mean,
I
how do
think
you,
I can, I think I can work
yeah,
with that.
yeah.
So consciousness, the body is the pipeline of consciousness. And when the body is out of commission like that, consciousness stops. If we go back to when does consciousness start? I mean, it never really starts and ends, but for us it does, because it doesn't come about until birth. And consciousness is there, language is not, but consciousness is still there. When we go to sleep, there's no languaging, but there's no consciousness either. And what I think is confusing you is that in this teaching, I differentiate between awakeness and consciousness.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
consciousness is this. Everything is consciousness, right?
Mhm.
All of it, every bit of it. What's here and what we imagine is so it's just consciousness. But awakeness is that which is prior to consciousness, and it it is inexplicable. So I can't tell you that there's anything. I can't tell you what is prior to consciousness, because it's prior to consciousness, and therefore
Right.
I can't know.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
There does come a deep sense that what is prior to consciousness that's really true nature.
And
Consciousness
that's our true nature.
is the only true nature.
It's
That's
the
right.
only true nature.
It's the
Yeah.
only true nature. And it is prior to consciousness. Consciousness is, because what consciousness is primarily, if you look at it, it's illusion.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness, everything here is built on consciousness. What can you know if you're not conscious? Nothing. So you only come to know with the advent of consciousness. And an infant comes to know, but it hasn't made any agreements like we have, which is that we're going to call this a can. And that's an agreement. It's not a real can. The can is not an existent thing. It's patterns that appear to be solid this and solid that. But in fact, there's nothing solid here. I mean, there is within relativity. Don't let me argue with that, and don't think I'm crazy. But relativity itself is a dream.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So relativity, in fact, is the dream,
Mm-hmm.
and it is the dream of that which is prior to consciousness, which I can't know any idea what it is. But I tell you, I know that it is. That's all I know, is I know that it is, but I don't know what it is. And I don't know that it is through any thing that I can point at. There's no conclusive moment that I had where I saw that which is prior to consciousness, because you can't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm limited. This body is limited to what consciousness can do, and consciousness can't see what's prior to it. It comes back down to, you'll hear some teachers tell you that consciousness is presence. It is present during sleep. Well, not by my definition.
Well, that's what I wanted clarified. Yeah.
Yeah, not by my definition at all. Whatever happens in a dream happens only in a dream. It doesn't have any effect anywhere else. It doesn't affect the real world, in the sense that doesn't mean there can't be any connection to relativity, but relativity is not the real world either. This is the appearance of the real world. This is the reflection of that which is prior to consciousness. I can't understand it at all. The properties that we're looking for, if we can come to see that we are consciousness, because we cannot not be. Everything is consciousness, and that doesn't mean everything but Fred.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's everything is consciousness. That's really all we need. What I like I like having that which is prior to consciousness, because it explains a lot of things in depth. It keeps us from feeling like when we come here, I've got it. Now I've got it, right? And because one who's saying I've got it doesn't.
Mhm.
And because there's not a getting it. There's noticing this. And then there is, I don't understand how it works. I don't understand it at all. But it's like I've said before, that it's like there's a thin membrane of some sort. It's just a way of explaining it. It's not like there's really a membrane, but
Mhm.
it's as if there's a thin membrane between the depth of things that we reach here, especially when we get into the deep end of the pool. There's not a knowing of that which is prior consciousness. The void cannot be known. There's nothing to be there.
Right. Nothing to know. Yeah.
Right, nothing to know. It has the feeling of truth to it, but I can't really know. You can see, I mean, once we get beyond prior to consciousness, I'm out of my depth. You know, I know some things, but how consciousness works, all of this, but that which is prior, really nobody knows much about it. But that's what we really are. We're really
Mhm.
that which is prior to consciousness, because
Mhm.
the void is what births all of this. And the void cannot be anything unto itself, because it is the seed for everything. So it's no thing is the seed for everything, just the way it works. And so what the no thing is that which is prior to consciousness. What I can tell you is that it is the potentiality for all of this. That still doesn't explain things much, but it does explain the role. It's the potentiality for all of this. All of this exists only because of that. And when Nisargadatta said, I am that, that's what he was talking about.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Talking about
Well, I've always felt like consciousness was the first movement out of, and, but sometimes, I don't know, I think you said something in one of those enlightenment minutes. What are you calling it?
It's the Enlightenment Chronicles.
The Enlightenment Chronicles. Those are great, by the way. And so you said something, and then I thought, well, I wonder how he's using it. And I don't remember exactly what you said on the video,
Probably
but
be a good idea if I find a verse that's or I'll just riff anyway, but
yeah, I think it's just,
to go into this.
you must be right because you agree with me. So
Well, that's great. We have our own approval, and it's the only one that we need or are going to get. So
right.
It's really tricky,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not if you just think of the void as the potentiality for everything. It's nothing unto itself, which
Mm-hmm.
is the potentiality for everything. Think about space. Nothing can exist in the absence of space. What is space unto itself? Kind of hard to say, it's the absence of matter, or what sort of, but everything comes and goes within space, and space is the reflection of the void, if you will. Everything arises within space, and space arises within that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Great.
time is just a dream. It works. It works
Mm-hmm.
for our purposes. But I was just looking at the very beginning of a radio show that I watch from time to time, and they have a series called Deep Time, and it's a different ways of it's to the best of our knowledge on NPR, and they have a series on this time, and it's different ways that it's experienced and different ways of seeing it. It's not, maybe it's not quite like we always thought, which is it's 3 o'clock because it's 3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock because we said it was 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Notice that in 1 hour, I mean, in a couple of weeks, we're going to throw away that agreement and adopt another one that is not 3 at 2 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. New agreement, which a lot of
And
us.
there's subjective agreement or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's just, and what we do is, well, everything is a series of agreements. We all fall in line with, this is a cooler, a koozie cooler, because we all agreed to call it that. Someone came up with that name, probably the guy who invented it, and came up with the name koozie. That name was offered to us at the same time this was. And we said, oh, look, it's a koozie. And from now on, everybody else that was introduced to it got the word, well, these are koozies. You put your drink in them. Oh, koozies, how neat. And it's, but a guy in China wouldn't call these koozies. He would have a different word because they have different words by agreement. Like language is really comes down to a bunch of agreements. Yeah. We'll call this, we'll call that. And I call you Susan because you've asked me to, not because it's really a Susan over there. But I got to call that something.
Years ago, I heard you say, and you've probably said it a lot since, but you said Susan is a thought. You said that to me once, and it was like, oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, Susan's a thought.
She's a thought.
Yeah. And it's also, and the funny thing is, not only is it our thought, it's also your thought, whatever. Right? It's Susan is a thought that arises to everyone, including the Susan object.
Yeah.
Thank you. I like going.
Thank you. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. I always love to kick it around.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.